Hello and welcome to Freedom to Nourish, the podcast where we explore what it really means to make peace with food and our bodies. I'm Kathy Salata, and today I would love to talk about something that has shaped how Americans think about food for decades, our National Nutrition Guidelines. Specifically, I want to explore a simple question. Are our food guidelines helping us build a healthy relationship with food? Or are they making us more confused and more rigid than ever? And I know that they updated them a few months ago, but I wanted to see diet culture's reaction to it. Diet culture and toxic wellness trends can make you feel like you're at war with your own body, constantly doubting yourself and chasing impossible standards. But it doesn't have to be that way. I'm Kathy Salata, a recovered anorexia survivor and educator, and this is Freedom to Nourish. Each week we'll have real conversations, share stories, and give you tools to finally make peace with food and respect your body. No more food rules, no more body shame, just the freedom to be yourself again. Because if you look around today, you'll notice something interesting. Americans are more obsessed with nutrition than ever before. We track macros, we count protein grams, we eliminate carbs, we debate seed oils, we drink protein shakes. And yet, many people feel more confused about food than ever before. So today, let's step back and talk about something much simpler and much more sustainable. Variety, balance, and moderation. For decades, the U.S. government has used the food pyramid to guide our eating habits. Later, it evolved into My Plate, which tries to simplify things by showing fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, dairy. Now, these guidelines were created with the best of intentions to improve public health and reduce our disease risk. But like many broad recommendations, they sometimes get interpreted in extreme ways by diet culture. Right now, we are seeing a major cultural shift where protein is king. Protein bars, protein coffee, protein ice cream, protein pancakes. Protein has become almost a moral badge of honor in the wellness world. But here's the truth that often gets lost. Most Americans are not deficient in protein. In fact, many people are consuming far more protein than their bodies actually require. But there's another nutrient that Americans are consistently lacking in: fiber. The average American adult should consume about 25 to 38 grams of fiber per day, but we're actually about half of that at about 15 grams. Now, let's talk a little bit about that massive gap. Fiber supports our gut health, our blood sugar stability, our heart health, our digestive regularity, satiety. And where do we find fiber? Mostly in foods that diet culture has spent years demonizing. Whole grains, beans, lentils, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. In other words, carbohydrates. And when entire food groups are labeled bad, people often end up missing these important nutrients. And this is where intuitive eating offers a very powerful perspective. Instead of labeling food as good or bad, we ask a different question. What does my body need for nourishment, satisfaction, and energy? Now, one trend I really like about this new pyramid is the renewed interest in whole foods. Foods that are close to their natural form. Things like fresh fruit, vegetables, beans, eggs, fish, and whole grains, nuts and seeds, and even simple animal proteins that aren't heavily processed. These foods tend to naturally contain fiber, vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates. So yes, choosing whole foods can absolutely support health. But here's where we need to be careful. Healthy eating should not become another form of perfectionism, because food doesn't need to be perfect to be nourishing. Sometimes nourishment looks like a home-cooked meal. Sometimes it looks like takeout with friends. Sometimes it looks like dessert. Food supports not only our bodies, but also our culture, our relationships, and joy. Another trend we're seeing is the swing toward very high meat consumption and heavy emphasis on foods like butter and whole milk. Now, again, these foods can be absolutely part of a balanced diet, but the key word here is balance. Nutrition science consistently shows us that dietary patterns associated with long-term health tend to include a variety of plant foods, moderate amounts of animal protein, healthy fats, and yes, those fiber-rich carbohydrates. In other words, there is rarely one magic food that determines health. Health usually comes from the overall pattern of eating over time. And that pattern is far more flexible than social media would have us believe. Now, one area where the guidelines are becoming clearer is alcohol consumption. More research is showing that even moderate alcohol intake may carry some health risk. The current recommendation is essentially, if you drink, drink less. And if you don't drink, there's no reason to start. Again, intuitive eating supports autonomy here. This isn't about shame, it's about awareness, and it's about choice. And if there's one message I hope you take away from today's episode, it's this. Healthy eating does not require hyper-focus or perfection. When we obsess over every macro, every ingredient, every gram of protein, food stops becoming nourishment and starts becoming another source of stress. And that's not what health is supposed to feel like. Instead, consider a much simpler framework: variety, balance, and moderation. Variety means eating many different foods over time. Balance means including different nutrients and food groups. And moderation allows flexibility, enjoyment, and sustainability. So before the next episode, I invite you to try one small experiment. At your next meal, ask yourself, what could I do to increase variety? Maybe it's adding some more vegetables, including some whole grains, some fruit. Maybe it's slowing down and noticing how the meal tastes and how your body feels. No tracking, no judgment, just curiosity. Because the goal of intuitive eating is not control. The goal is connection. Connection to your body, connection to nourishment, and connection to the freedom that comes from trusting yourself around food. And I thank you for joining me on Freedom to Nourish. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might benefit from a more compassionate approach to food. And remember, you deserve nourishment, satisfaction, and peace with food. Until next time. If you're ready to step into a kinder, fuller life, subscribe now and join me each week for Freedom to Nourish. Because your body deserves respect, your story deserves to be heard, and you deserve to live fully right now.